It's about to go down with Marc and Cathey, a live coaching show about dropping ideas. Marc and Cathey coach and have conversations with brilliant idea creators who are reimagining the world through the expression of their words, thoughts, and action.
Hey everybody, I am Cathey Armillas. Welcome to this episode of It's About to Go Down.
And I am Marc Williams, the partner in crime over here. And we are joined today. Shall I call her a best buddy, Cathey? I'm going to call her a best buddy.
Yes,
and you're going to absolutely find out why. This is Shima Miabadi. Right? And Shima is an architect right here, Cathey, I got to claim it, right here in New York City with Handel Architects. And I met Shima a long time ago. It has been absolutely amazing working alongside and partnering up with her. And recently, I found out that she is a best buddy. There's a whole story behind that, and it's connected to Shima's idea today, which is about how volunteering works. So Shima, welcome to It's About to Go Down. It's so awesome to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me, Marc, Cathey. I'm so excited to be here.
Yeah. Well, Shima, you got to start off right now, right? We already called you the best buddy. So you help everybody understand why we're calling you the best buddy. What is this connection to volunteering? How did you even get into volunteering? And why did you even get into volunteering in the first place?
Woo, that is a loaded question.
A lot, Marc.
Yeah, no, I'm happy to start at the beginning. Well, first of all, Best Buddies. This is the t-shirt I'm wearing, as you can see. It's an organization. It's a nonprofit organization that I've been volunteering for many years. And it's an organization that supports people with IDD. So people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And the reason why I started volunteering with them is because when I moved to New York City, I didn't know anybody and I wanted to make friends. So the only way I knew how to make friends was to volunteer, because that's one of my passions. I've been doing it for so many years. And so I signed up for this big volunteering organization. And so for one of the events, which was actually the Friendship Walk back in 2014, if I'm not mistaken, I signed up, and that's how I became involved, and I absolutely loved it. And from there on out, I continued volunteering for this event until I met some people who worked for the organization, and they kind of just brought me in, asked if I want to volunteer for them directly and be on the junior board and start helping out with the organization of some of these events and become more involved. So yeah, that's what I did a few years ago, and I have not looked back, and I've made some really, really, really close friendships because of it. So I'm very grateful.
Shima, I love your heart so much. I love that story. I always, when I heard you tell the story the first time, I was like, who goes to a new city and is like, I need to meet friends. I'm going to go volunteer. I love that so much. I mean, more people should. And I love that. You know, I would love for us to kind of get right into it too, as far as like, when we, so Marc, so for anybody watching, Marc, Shima, and I had a conversation. We were all at Handel, and we were talking about how Shima, you know, started going to Best Buddies, and she said, and I quote, "Volunteering works." And Marc was like, "That needs to be on a t-shirt," and we were like, "Yes, volunteering works." And then Shima's kind of like, you were like, I don't know how I don't know how I'm having this conversation about, you know, being the spokesperson for volunteering. But so that's what I wanted to talk about is like, you know, I'm a TED coach. Marc coaches people to speak. Shima, if you were to give a TED talk tomorrow about why somebody should volunteer, what are some of the things that you think would come up? What are some of the things that are important around that?
You know, I mean, I think that's also a very personal question. I think a lot of people volunteer for their own personal reasons. The reason why I volunteer is very near and dear to my heart. I mean, I'm an immigrant. I have moved around a lot throughout my childhood, and you know, going from a country where we basically had to flee and go somewhere else and kind of like seek asylum. And you know, if there were a lot of people who helped families like mine, and if it weren't for those people, I think my life would have changed drastically. So you know, I think seeing the results of what volunteering and helping out your community does directly has made such an impact on my life that, you know, the only thing I can think of is to continue giving back and you know, giving forward, I guess. So in that sense, for me, it works because I know what the impact actually is. But, you know, I think, like I said, it is very personal for everybody who volunteers. And there are so many different organizations where you can kind of like really just hone in on what it is that you want to get out of it and do exactly that. So for me, like Best Buddies, the way it happened is I actually had an uncle who had IDD growing up. And so again, it was a personal connection. And I remember the relationship that I personally had with him and seeing how he was treated in the community, in our family, and the things that he was lacking, but also the things that we were able to provide him because we were familiar with this type of with someone with IDD. So for me, it was something that I wanted to learn more about and kind of also normalize, you know, I think it is a normal thing. Like I think we are just so preconditioned to think of people as being one thing, you know, and just not it whatsoever. Again, me coming from a different culture, from like 5 different cultures, and having grown up so differently, I've always felt like I was the odd one out. So it's so important to me to make people feel as they're part of the community, as if they belong, and because we all do belong, you know, that's the bottom line. So what this organization does is really just normalize that stigma that's on this community, that it really should not be there, that like we're all human, we're all put on this planet for a reason, and we all are part of a bigger picture, a bigger community. So you know, I think it's great that we're able to help integrate and actually show the rest of the world what all of these lovely people are capable of. So for me, that was my personal reason. And it works for me because it gives me so much joy just to be around all of my friends and do these types of events like the friendship walk that's coming up this Saturday. And that was the catalyst of me becoming involved with Best Buddies in the first place. And it's just heartwarming, you know, just seeing your friends having fun and knowing that you're doing good in the world. Because to me, it's not making, you know, I'm not taking that much time out of my schedule to help contribute, but I know it's making an impact. And I know that other people that have helped me in the past have, whatever they were able to provide me had made such a bigger impact on me than it made on them, if that makes sense. So if I'm putting in an hour of my time towards something, it could mean the world to somebody else. So I think just paying it forward, and also like knowing that what little you can do can have such a huge impact mentally on somebody else is enough reason for me to continue doing what I do. I don't know.
I love
if
the
I answered your
line.
question.
You answered it and on so many different levels.
It's on so many different levels in so many beautiful ways, Shima. No, that was so awesome.
Oh, wow. I love this statement that you said, an hour of my time could mean a lifetime for somebody else.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I think what stood out to me about what you said, Shima, is a lot of times when we think about volunteering, yeah, let's do something good that we're not going to get paid for, right? And then there's this, I almost feel dirty saying it, right? But when it comes to volunteering, there's this thing like, yeah, but it's the absence of money, right? Like, why am I doing this, right? Like, I don't have time. I need to get a job, whatever it is. I need to get paid for my time. And but what you said that I thought was interesting is, first of all, you didn't even mention money, so kudos to that. But beyond doing something good, which is what people often associate with volunteering, it was about doing something personal.
Mhm.
And that's what
Yeah.
really stood out to me. And it makes me wonder how many people out there, when you think about all the different options of volunteering, if you first thought about, and I think I wrote it down in my notes, a personal connection that you have
Mhm.
to people who need help. We
Mm.
all know people who need help. So
Mhm.
what's the personal connection to that?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, yeah, I think when it comes to volunteering, just like you said, because there's often enough we question like what's in it for me, right? Like anything we do in this world nowadays is what's in it for me. If there's money involved, what am I personally getting out of this interaction? I think with volunteering, you kind of have to really shut off that part of your brain, because you're not doing this for you, you're doing this for somebody else. And
Mhm.
I think a lot of times people tend to forget that a little bit. And I think again, for the personal connection that I have to this specific organization was because of a family member, but also because of like the alienation of a specific community, which I completely disagree with in every sense. Like I said, I do come from a different culture. I'm from Iran originally. I grew up in Europe and I moved here at 16, right after 9/11. Being from the Middle East, moving here 2 weeks after 9/11 was a very scary time for me. And I immediately, all eyes were on us, me and my family. So I, you know, only because I look different, I have always stood out. And a lot of times people tend to just kind of, not even want to approach me or my family just because of a certain stigma, or whether it's discrimination or because they just don't know, or like this like unknown fear that they might have because they just are not familiar enough with us. That's always been in the back of my mind, and that's always been a part of me, my upbringing, because I have always stood out. I always was the odd one out. So knowing how tough that can be, and I don't have a disability, I know how, I already know how difficult, that's already difficult enough to have to deal with that. But then add in a disability with that as well. And there's just no winning there sometimes. Like you end up dealing with people who just don't even want to approach the subject. Not knowing that this community is very much capable of living a normal life and doing exactly what you and I are doing every day. So just opening up that portal or those doors or in that line of communication is very important to me, so that people start asking these types of questions and wanting to know more, not just about volunteering, but also about like what this community has to offer. So for me, that was that personal question, or personal connection. I've volunteered for many other organizations and, just one-off opportunities that I find here and there where I can just help contribute, just because, like I said, if I have an hour of time or a few hours that I'm not doing something, why wouldn't I do something to help somebody else? And it doesn't always have to be a personal connection. I mean, I have worked at a soup kitchen before, and I don't necessarily have a personal connection with that, but I've enjoyed every single time I've worked at a soup kitchen because I learned how to cook. Like, I've actually learned how to cut a pineapple from a chef working at a soup kitchen, like things like that, or just, you just never know who you're going to run into, who you're going to meet, and what their reasons are for being there too. Like, I think, we just often tend to kind of, like I said, shut off parts of our community because we just don't know. And this is another way to kind of dive in deeper and get to know your neighbors, get to know the people who you're surrounded by. Just because they look different, they come from a different status, they may or may not have disabilities, doesn't mean that they don't deserve your time.
Shima, I love all of this. Ooh, like you've said a lot of things in here that I think make me really look at volunteering in a different way. I mean, some of the stuff I'm like, oh, I felt that. I don't know if you know, but I gave my first TED talk on why everybody should be a mentor to the youth. Mine was kind of, I mentioned Big Brother, Big Sister really quick, but that was, it was really just more about, and my whole talk ended up being like, I started it for a personal connection, a personal reason. And then I realized that I thought I was going to help my little sister, and it ended up helping me more than it helped her. And so it like I talked a little bit about some of the benefits. I would love to kind of break it down because I'm a nerd, and I would love to break it down on, because I can't get over two words that I can't get over right now: works and connection. And works because we said it at the beginning, right? Volunteering works. And what I think, some of the things that you've talked about, I love, because it this is why you love doing it. This is why it feels personal to you. And in my mind as a speaker coach, I'm like, how do we get people to put their foot into that? Because I think once people do it, and even if they don't, like, what if they think that they can't find the connection, or what if they, anyway, but I had this idea, and I don't know what the two of you think, but I had this idea about, why does it work? Like, what works about it? And it made me think. One time my sister and I had this idea. My mom lives in Phoenix now. Nobody from our family lives near her. And my mom is just like many moms, not very savvy on the, the tech stuff. I'll just say, if she has a computer, if there's something wrong with her phone, she can't figure it out. And we were like, my sister had this great idea. She's like, why don't we just start an app where it's like helping parents or something, we're like, I'll help your parents because somebody out there will help my mom. Like, I'm going to do something for your parent that lives close to me because they live really close to me. And then somebody out there will help my mom figure out her computer stuff too. And so my brain was in this space of like, it works for so many different reasons. It works because the people that do volunteer feel a personal connection, and they feel like they can give their heart and their time, and they know they're making a difference. It works for the people that the organizers of various, organizations that are really trying their hardest to help people, but yet functionally it's really hard to get funding, to get people. It works for the people that are benefiting from the volunteer work. So I don't know, Marc, I don't know what you think about that, but I really like the works a lot. And I really like that it's a personal connection. I never really, I guess it was under there, but you brought it to the surface, Shima, and I love that.
It's funny, as soon as you said it works because, and I was thinking about that early as well. You mentioned, here I go with my English words, a plethora.
Ooh, I love it.
A plethora
I love
of reasons why people should volunteer. And so I love that. And I can see how you can incorporate that into a talk or into a conversation. And it's funny, Cathey, that you picked up on the word connection as well. Because on the flip side, the word that I wrote down was alienation. Because
yeah.
Shima, you spoke so much about building community and why, right, Cathey? We always talk about the why.
Yeah.
And so much of why we want volunteering to work is because of the separation and the alienation that tends to go on. And I see, in addition to sharing all of these different reasons about why it works, leading into that with the alienation that's going on, right? You think about every volunteering organization and you think about the community that they serve. It's because that community on some level is feeling or being treated in a way that encompasses the word alienation. So if we start with the why of the alienation, so that at the end of the day, we're bringing everybody together and creating that connection that you're talking about. Because how'd you say it before? We want to normalize, we want to integrate, we want to make everybody feel like they belong, right? And that is just the tip of the iceberg of why it works.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's a simple concept, right? You would think that like that very basic concept that everyone should be working towards, but at the same time, I also understand that people have lives, people have children, people that have their own families and commitments. So having the idea that they want to commit to something that's bigger than them, it can be daunting. So how do we normalize that like it's not daunting? It really should be part of your like daily routine, that you know, you're put on this planet not by yourself. Like we're living amongst billions and billions of people. It would be hard to alienate yourself from everybody and not want to contribute. So why not just build a bigger community? Why not just, you know, build a better life for yourself and for the rest of your community?
Marc, I love that I love that you picked up on the word alienation and how Shima was describing it. I do think that it, you know, it's almost like if you talk about, or if I think about how volunteering works, it's almost like we skip right to the spot where it's about the thing that we're going to do, as opposed to the why we're doing the thing, right? And you know, Shima, I don't know if you know, but Marc, you know, I have a brother that's blind, and he had told me one time this story about how he's not able to get groceries during the day because he could get hit by a car, because he can't tell if cars are coming, but at night he can, because he can faintly see like if there's a green, or if there's green or red, and so he at least knows when the light is changing. And it made me really think about how much, when you're somebody that has the ability to help somebody in something that's actually, I mean, Shima, you're kind of already alluding to it, I think, that it's like, it's so easy for you to, it's so easy and not even that time consuming to help somebody, but the person that you're helping because of this one area, and not that they're alienated in all areas, or they're disadvantaged in all areas, but in this one particular area, you easily have something that could help them. If you have the nail and I have the hammer, like I can help you.
Absolutely.
You know,
Yeah.
and they probably have something that you don't have, you know. So I love that. I mean, I really, really love that, because I think that we do sometimes, when we talk about volunteering, I think we do get right to the act of it as opposed to the why.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I mean, yes, that's spot on. I volunteer for City Meals on Wheels for that exact reason. Like that's another organization where they do meal delivery for the elderly in New York City. And similarly, it's because this community, they're not able to go out and get their own groceries, whether it's for financial reasons or they're just like, they simply cannot leave the house. And all it takes is a few volunteers just kind of going knocking on doors for a few hours and delivering these meals. And it's not that hard to do, but again, it's a commitment. But through that as well, you learn so many fun, like great people. And because of that, I've actually gotten to know some of like the elderly community in New York, and it's wild hearing these old stories. I've met some dancers from like back in the day, and just so hearing about their experiences. A lot of times too, when you knock on their doors, you kind of want to have a little conversation, and it's fun kind of getting to know them and getting to know some of like the authentic New Yorkers and their stories, because a lot of times their stories are also now forgotten because they're becoming more alienated because they can't really be out in the community and like be out in the hustle and bustle of New York. So I'm learning through doing this, like I'm learning from them, and it's actually really fun. And again, it does not take that much time, but because of that one thing that they're not able to do, and I can easily do that and just go door to door and like deliver some meals, I'm helping their day, I'm helping make their weekend better, and in turn they're making my weekend better because they're sharing some really fun stories about their lives with me.
I got to tell you, Shima, you just reminded me of a conversation that Cathey and I just recently had. Cathey pointed out that, like many people, I have my share of stories, but sometimes I just give the surface, right? And she's always trying to get me and others to flesh out all of those details. And as soon as you just said that, I thought, wow, I would love to hear during a talk or a conversation, you sharing some of these, because I was like, wait, I want to hear another story. I want to hear a story about whatever it is. I'm sure you are rich with stories that you can tell that just really hammer in the whole point that you get to meet so many interesting people. And that ties back into one of the reasons why you even started volunteering in the first place, to meet people, right? And you're not just getting to know names, you're getting to know people. Exactly. Which is really key to building community, right?
Exactly.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I think, exactly right. That was the reason why I started in the first place when I moved here. I wanted to be I wanted to be a part of a community. And I mean, again, that goes back to my upbringing and not ever having that foundation or having that community. So for me, it's extremely important to be a part of something. So this is just my way of building my own community.
You might want to take Cathey's age-old advice and start creating a story file of all of those different instances where you have met people, and then as you go out and exchange, like just start sharing those stories. The beauty of storytelling is that it was never really meant to just be told by one person, right? It was meant to be spread. And the opportunity to do that also builds a community. So I would definitely recommend that you start building that story file of all of these different experiences that you've had and the many different stories that you've learned from other people.
Yeah. Definitely.
I love that. Yeah. Here I am. I'm gonna be a nerd again. I'm gonna be a nerd again. The nerd brain just won't shut off for whatever reason right now. I was like, as you two were talking, I was like, volunteering works because, and then I wrote volunteering works because, and it made me start to think about it. Like, it would be fun to like mess around with like coming up with the answer to all that, or to keep responding to that. Volunteering works. So maybe we can play a game where we just put our own, and it doesn't matter what it is. Like, I mean, I can start, right? Because one of the things that I wrote down was volunteering works because someone needs something that you can provide. Volunteering works because, Marc, Shima,
you can give back, or
you can give back. Yeah, it does. Yeah, you can give back, Marc. I mean, it doesn't have to be. To me, it's like a brainstorming. Like, to make friends. Volunteering works because you can make friends. You learn stories. Yeah, you learn about people's stories. You build community.
You get to meet some interesting people. You build community. You learn something about yourself.
You learn something about yourself.
The biggest lesson I think that I've learned through volunteering, but learning more about yourself, your capabilities, your limits, things like that. I think definitely, I think it's definitely like a personal challenge, you know?
Mhm.
Mhm.
Love that.
Yeah.
See, as we continue to go, I feel like we're getting more to the heart of like where a
Mhm.
talk would really be powerful. Because I think sometimes what people hear on any given idea or subject is we always hear the things that we normally hear. And anytime I work with a TED speaker, especially if they have a topic, because there's always, to my mind, there's always a topic and there's an idea. And they're very different. And sometimes people try to mesh the two. The topic would be volunteering, but what's Shima's idea about it? Or the topic could be about there shouldn't be bullying. What would the idea be on that? The topic could be why we buy from small businesses, but what's somebody's particular idea? And I love to do this exercise where you just like you
Mhm.
keep going deep, because then you kind of find that angle, and some of it's already coming up, right? I love this, Shima.
Yeah.
You know, this like personal connection. You learn something about yourself that you didn't know.
Mhm.
I don't know. Do we have any others?
Hmm.
Volunteering works because.
I think just kind of creating a closer tie to your community, knowing that you're able to give back and having that your impact be of exponential growth. I think a lot of times people volunteer to feel better about themselves. And there's a reason for that. You do feel better about yourself because you're going into something thinking, oh, I'm selfless. I'm giving my time. I'm volunteering my time. I'm not getting anything back for it. And at the end of the day, that impact, as we talked about before, it can be exponential because you're really impacting someone's life in so many different ways. It's not just you kind of like going to this event and standing there. It's being there, being present. I just, again, putting the time in to even be present shows that you care, you know? And so I think in that sense, a lot of times people do like to do these things because at the end of the day, they feel so much better going home knowing that they've made an impact on somebody else's life.
Oh my gosh. All right, I'm going to put this into a line, y'all, because this was beautiful. I love this one. I wrote it down, okay? Volunteering
Go for it.
works because the impact has exponential growth.
Mhm. Yeah.
I mean, what a great, so to me, that starts to become an idea, right? That's the idea. That idea has a lot of legs because and it starts touching, seems to be a very central idea too, meaning some of the things that were said connect to that. The impact has exponential growth in the personal space, right? Shima, you talked about that, the personal connection. It has exponential growth in the community. It has exponential growth on the side of the receiver. It has exponential growth within the person that's volunteering. I even was thinking on the level of like, do either one of you guys have either one of you ever played SimCity?
No, I never played SimCity.
No, okay. But you know the gist of it, right? You're building a city, and so you're like, okay, it's really important where you put the airport, because then you got to think about, you know, all the things, and then where should you build things, and where should the library be, and you know, all the things when you're basically trying to be a city planner and figure out where everything goes. In my mind, I was thinking about volunteering being in that space too. Volunteering a little bit is like, it's kind of the glue that holds the community together. Like the community, things wouldn't work if everybody in the world was like, nah, I'm just going to take care of me and me only. I mean, and I'm talking the whole world. If everybody was just like, no, I got to do for me only, the world would come to a halt. It wouldn't work like that. That would be end of game right there.
Yeah. And I think in a lot of ways, our society is kind of just, you know, going towards that direction because we do tend to live very personal lives, and everything we do is kind of dictated by our social media and, you know, just how you present yourself and how much money you can make and how, you know, how you can live your own best life. And I think because of that, we're becoming more and more distant from people around us and our communities, and we tend to kind of forget the importance of personal connections. So I think another way that volunteering helps is to kind of humble you a little bit, bring you back down to earth, and so you can see how other people in your community live. Like, we're just so desensitized by everything that we see on our little screens all day, every day. So, you know, like I said, going door to door, delivering meals, I see how a lot of our senior citizens live in New York City. And, you know, certain times it's very sad to see the conditions that they live under, and thinking that this person has contributed, you know, decades of their life to this city, and this is the condition that they're left in. And it's so incredibly sad. But it, you know, again, it's humbling to see that, like, there are people like this still out there, and, you know, we should be aware of it. We should work towards a better life. We should work towards helping others so that we're not left living like this at the end of our day. And so, yeah, I think it's just it's eye-opening. It really is. I think it helps people understand how their community functions and how their community really works, rather than being kind of just living in that virtual world that we're so accustomed to.
I got to tell you, Cathey always talks about saying something that people don't expect. Volunteering works because it humbles you. It's something I don't think I ever would have expected to hear in this conversation.
Yeah.
And I think that's really powerful. So I wanted to point that out. And then as I was listening to the two of you just speak, what I also thought is the opportunity to expand on what volunteering means. Because volunteering can mean joining an organization like Best Buddies. And then volunteering, and I got to share this story. I heard this on the news this morning. There's a story of a guy who had been homeless, I think it was for about 8 months. I think his cousin or some family member finally took him in. So now he's not homeless, but he's jobless. And he was on his way to a job interview at a mall, when all of a sudden, out of the corner of his eye, he sees this woman get out of her car with a stroller. And I don't know if because it was a windy day or what have you, but the wind pushes the stroller with the baby in it, and the stroller's going towards traffic. And the woman, who turned out to be an aunt, she was trying to run, but she tripped. She hit her knees so badly on the ground that her knees were bloody and bruised. This man, on his way to his job interview, saw that stroller and ran out and stopped a tragic accident from happening. That's volunteering too. You know, and I say that because, Shima, you said earlier about that 1 hour, that 1 minute, right? And some people think, oh my goodness, this is such a big commitment. But in our daily lives, and you said that earlier, if we could just make this a daily habit, there are so many daily things that we could be doing to volunteer our time. Best Buddies, I am absolutely sure, is an absolutely amazing organization. But it's not the only way that we can volunteer our time every day. So I just wanted to give you a nod for bringing that up.
Yeah, no, thank you for bringing that up. I mean, that really ties back to the sense of community, right? And just being present in your community. I mean, I can't tell you how often I have walked up and down the stairs at the subway, seeing a mother struggle with a stroller, or a father struggle with a stroller. And I see all these people walking by, able-bodied people walking by. Not a single person will stop and offer to help. I mean, I'm 5'3" and very petite, and every single time I stop and offer to help, only because, duh. I mean, you see someone struggling, it'll take no time out of my day because I'm already going up these stairs anyways. So why wouldn't you contribute a little bit of your time and manpower to help this person out? And like a lot of times I just see people kind of like turning their heads and walking away because they just don't want to be involved, you know? And I mean, I guess to your point, that's called volunteering. You're volunteering your time and effort to help somebody else out, somebody in need. And similarly, a lot of times people think just like by donating money, they've done their share. And I mean, granted, I'm not saying don't donate money. I think that's a great thing. And it's very much appreciated by so many organizations, but that's not the only thing you can do, you know, like, it's a great thing when people do donate money, but it's not gonna wipe away your sins if that's what people are thinking, or, you know, it's not the only way you can help out an organization. There's a lot of different ways you can contribute, and just being more active and aware goes such a long way.
That, Mark, that was, I love that you asked that question too. Like I was saying, volunteering works because, but you're like, volunteering can mean, and again, like taking it to a deeper level. This conversation has us in so many different awesome directions, and I would say deep, just really, really deep. I was thinking about something that my sister told me the other day. She said, my brother-in-law's family all lives in India, and there's one of the brothers, his uncle had passed away when he was really young, and so the family is coming together to like help his family, right? And my sister was saying that, you know, like she was like, yeah, of course, you know, we're like all the way over here and they're in India, and so the money part's the easy part, like that's the easiest part. But really, when it comes down to it, it's like, who are you going to make a bigger impact to? Like if you have two family members that one's like, I just really need you to help me move, you know, and one person's like, well, I don't have time, but I'll just give you the money, you know, hire some movers. Well, what if somebody comes and they help you, right? And somebody's like, oh no, I'm going to take my time and I'll come help you. You know, it just gets to the heart of what you're talking about, Shima, you know, and time is that resource that is absolutely equal for everybody, because everybody has a scarce amount of it. And if you choose to use your time with other people, it's a big deal, even if it's just a microsecond of helping somebody in the subway get strollers up the stairs. It's Shima, you're talking about, you're really, because you brought it in earlier, Mark, you picked up on it because she said daily habit. It's like a mindset. Do you have the volunteer mindset is really what we're asking. I know, I'm wondering if that's the thing, right? Is the talk really to get people, I mean, is the foot in the door maybe of like having a volunteer mindset? Because if you start with going, oh, somebody needs help there, oh, opening a door, oh, helping this, how will it not lead to like, there's senior citizens in the city that need meals?
Yeah.
I mean, I gotta go, like, you know, I don't know, I'm literally like, I gotta get off this call and I want to go volunteer. Like that's how I'm feeling, you know? And I'm not even kidding. I'm like, when I'm back in my city, it's like, I'm like, I want to go back and find out where I could volunteer. Where could I spend my time? Where could I deposit this love that you're talking about, this connection? How can I go make deposits for other people?
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, there are so many great organizations out there. Mark, you already mentioned it. Best Buddies is not the only one. It's one of the best ones, but it's not the only one. And, you know, I think luckily we live in New York City. We live in a city that has a lot of these like overarching programs or organizations that you can sign up for. I mean, the biggest one obviously being New York Cares. You can sign up for New York Cares and literally pick and choose according to your own schedule. Let's say you have like 2 hours on a random Thursday at noon you go and look and see what's available. And if there is anything available, you don't have to commit to all of these different organizations. You can just like, you know, do it once a month or once a year, whatever you decide works for you. But again, I know it's hard to commit. Like people more and more have a hard time committing to extracurricular activities that's not related to their own daily lives and their own jobs. So I guess to your point, how do we entice people to become more involved and not look away when there are opportunities to really help out their community? And as you said, the impact of it can be exponential. It's one thing to write a check, but it's another thing when you offer your friend, I'm going to come help you move, because you're offering them that social interaction. You're offering them that, again, I'm spending my time with you, and the importance of that goes a long way. And that's something that you'll remember for the rest of your life.
Yeah. What if there, okay, I'm being nerdy again. It's like an all day thing. I don't know why.
Okay, I'm very nerdy too.
Well, now I'm stuck on that. Now I'm stuck on where we ended up. I'm like, oh, I love the volunteer mindset. And then I wrote volunteer habit down. And then I was like, but I hate the word habit, because habit also has negative connotations to it. You know, if anything's a habit, it could be a bad, yeah, anyway. And so I was like, what else could there be? And then I was like, ooh, what about the volunteer practice? It's like, you're never perfecting it, but you're always practicing it, you know? And I don't know, something like that. In my mind, I feel like the tap in is getting people to understand that it isn't something outside of your home, that it's kind of within, it lives within your heart. I'm hearing that from you, Shima. I'm just getting that. It's in your heart. It's in your blood. You see the people that are walking by people, they probably don't even see the person, because they're just so used to like, oh my gosh, I got to get to work. Okay, I have to walk 5 blocks. I have to do this. I kind of almost have little blinders on, but it's like you see that because your heart's looking for it. And it's so that makes it a habit, right? Or a practice.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think I was just kind of conditioned to look for it just because of how I was raised, but also because of, like I said, the impact that it's had on my life and the people who did stop and look at me when I needed help. So it does have to become second nature in a way, and you do have to really want it, you know, you do have to kind of think beyond yourself. So encouraging people to do that is the hard part.
Well, I think it comes down to what you said before. It's hard for people to commit. And when I hear it's hard for people to commit, I hear people thinking about time, right? Because this takes time. I don't have the time for it, right? And so I go back to something you said earlier, Cathey, about how volunteering works because it has exponential growth. And I think one of the reasons why that stood out to me is because it creates this list of so many reasons that have to outweigh this one thing that keeps getting in the way. And one thing that keeps getting in the way is time. I don't have enough time. Yeah, but it'll humble you. I don't have enough time. Yeah, but it'll bring you closer to other people. I don't have enough time. Yeah, but it'll make you more self-aware, right? You've just got that one time thing, but it works for so many reasons, right? And I got to tell you also, what's really resonating with me about the whole conversation is this transition from, why do we have to do it? Because there are people out there who are being and feeling alienated. And we've got to do something to bring people together. And volunteering is the thing that can bring people together. And volunteering works on so many different levels. But the one thing that tends to get in the way of people volunteering is that commitment of time, right? But we don't need, and I love that you made the example of New York Cares. And by the way, Cathey, did you notice that Shima said, we're lucky to live in New York? Did you hear that?
I did hear that. I thought she misspoke, and I was like, no, No, I love that.
But I tease you, right? But this whole idea that the combat or the counter to it takes so much time is it doesn't, because once you start your volunteer practice on an everyday basis, you will see it doesn't take a lot of time, but it does require a lot of heart.
Yes, absolutely. And, you know, and I get it. Our time is limited. Our schedules are so packed. But nowadays, I mean, I'm hard pressed for time as well. But I think to your point is it's making that time to understanding that the impact is greater than what you're giving up. You know, if I'm waking up every day at 6 a.m., I would love to sleep in a little bit on the weekend. But if I have signed up for something that starts at like 7 a.m., I'll still wake up early and go do it on the weekend, even though I don't have to, you know, no one's forcing me to do so. But I just know what I'm getting out of it. And to me, that result is so much bigger than me having to wake up early another day.
I love where this ended up too, where it's like the time equals something bigger. Marc, I love that. I love that you brought that in. I also want to say that that line came from Shima, the impact of exponential growth. I just put it together with the volunteering works because I just put those two things together, but that came right out of Shima's mouth. And I think, and so I love that you took that though and said, if the time's the big block, but the time will do this and the time will do that. And you know, honestly, if you were to give this talk tomorrow, Shima, I definitely think Marc and I would be telling you, oh, hit time right on the head. Go right for it. Like go right at it. Like,
yeah,
you should attack that one first, but you know, you should go for that one first, right? Because that's going to be the thing that people are going to, you know, throw up. It's this block of like, I don't have enough time. You know, I heard on a, like somebody was being interviewed and I heard them ask a question. They asked a question like, if somebody were going to give you $1 million, would you take it? And he was like, yeah, of course. He's like, $2 million, would you take it? He's like, yeah, of course. And he goes, would you take $2 million if you knew that your life would end tomorrow? He's like, no, not at all. Right. Then why, you know, then he just asked him and he said that why isn't your time more important to you now? Like, why are you not, you know, and it really hit me in this way of like, of course you would never trade that. But what if you put that same kind of feeling on somebody else's life or somebody else's happiness? Like, would you actually trade the money? Would you actually take money, or you know, would you actually trade money, which you're when you're taking your time, many times you're trading it for money, right? Would you actually do that if you knew it was going to harm somebody? I mean, most of us would probably say no, right? And so I don't know, there's some ways to kind of like talk about the time that you spend and how it actually, you know, helps somebody. But I like the space that we ended up in, because until we start looking at things a little bit different, nobody changes. You have to change somebody's mind by making them think about something that they didn't think about before.
Definitely. And I mean, time is precious, right? We're only on this planet for a limited amount of time. And of course, we want to spend it in the best way possible, in whatever way we know how that's going to benefit us. I wouldn't say that's even selfish. I think that's normal. That's kind of like everyone wants that. So why would you spend that time on somebody else when you can be spending it on yourself? So I think that's the tough question you have to ask yourself when you're volunteering. Like, is that, you know, the time that you're spending on somebody else, can that be just as precious as the time that you're spending on yourself? Because ultimately it all ties together. And I think people are really, when they think about volunteering, it's really them thinking of this selfless act where they're putting themselves out of the equation and they're really just focusing on what they're contributing to the other person, to the community, or to whatever this organization is. But really, you're putting yourself in there, you know, you're part of it. So what are you getting out of it? That's really important. So I think really that's why it's important to have a personal connection to these organizations, because it makes you more passionate. It makes you want to do it more.
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
Same here.
We have talked about so many things, and I feel like some of the things that we've talked about are things I've never even really, I mean, my mind hasn't really even thought about these things in connection with volunteering, which I feel super grateful for. And I also think that's the power of a great conversation about an idea. I mean, anybody watching right now, you're witnessing it. We decided to have an hour-long conversation, and we thought, hey, what if we just what if we talked about why volunteering works and why it works for Shima? And maybe if Shima was talking to somebody, how would it work for somebody else? And you know, and then all the places that we've went. Shima, I'm curious how you're feeling about that. Like, how has your thoughts changed since we first started talking?
Well, I told you guys right before this that I've never thought of myself as a spokesperson for volunteering. I do spend a lot of my time volunteering because I love it. I love what it does for me, what it does to me. Whether or not I'm qualified, I don't know, to be talking about it or promoting it. But I guess maybe talking through it and talking about it, I think I now understand more so than ever that personal connection that I've had to all of these organizations that I've volunteered for, because I always thought I'd probably pick them all randomly, but now that I'm thinking back, there's always a reason why I've kind of like gone towards some of these organizations and volunteer opportunities. But that building of community, that's the biggest personal connection for me. And I think thinking back, every little thing that I have done has been working towards that specific thing of building a bigger picture, building a better community, bigger community, where if I'm doing one thing that can impact at least one life, then that person can pay it forward just as I have been paying it forward. And if we continue doing that, then we can build a better world for ourselves, for our children in the future. That's the hope.
I love it. I love that so much. Marc, I'm going to give you an opportunity because how's it changed for you? I'm just curious.
First of all, I think I try to do a lot on a daily basis, but it's got me thinking about that volunteer mentality, volunteer mindset, volunteer practice, and thinking about how I can do something at least once every day to practice volunteering. Because as our best buddy Shima said, I always stop to help because duh.
Line of the day, right?
Yeah. Sounds like me.
I love that. I love that. I love the words too. You just switched it around, Marc. Practice volunteering. Because before I had said maybe it's the volunteer practice, which sounds a little bit more, but I kind of like just the other way. Practice volunteering. I love that. Well, the way that it's kind of changed for me, Shima, the personal connection definitely stood out. I think and then I think it really hit me to heart also, the alienation thing. I think that really hit me. I definitely realized that, you know, people in organizations are there for a reason, and there's probably an alienation going on. And it's such a critical thing that would be for that person. And so to be able to help somebody because you can is a beautiful, wonderful thing. So that was my favorite. Shima, okay. This is the last line of your TED Talk. All right. I'm going to put you on the spot for a second. Okay. So it's the last line of your TED Talk. You've said all these awesome things. What's kind of the last thing that you say to everybody?
Besides volunteering works.
Yeah. However you maybe. Yeah.
That's the start and the ending. Give it a try. I would say that everyone should at least try to put themselves out there. It is not only a great way to meet people, it's a great way to get out there and see how the rest of the world lives, meet some people from different communities, from different backgrounds, you know, open yourself up, because you don't know what you're going to get out of it. That's the best part. You know, I think you're going to learn so much more about yourself through this process than you think. So go out there, go have fun. It is fun.
I love it. I love it, Shima. That's so awesome. Oh, that's a great ending. And so Shima, people watching are probably going to be like, okay, I need to like follow Shima, or I want to know more about Best Buddies. Where can they follow you at?
Yeah, I mean, so obviously I will, thebestbuddies.org. That's a great website with great resources. You know, there are chapters internationally, obviously in New York City. I'm happy to put you in contact with the directors and whoever you need to be in contact with in order to help out, either become part of the junior board or help with one-off events, or actually become a buddy. So I'm happy to share my social media, my Instagram handle, which is DT Shima Brown. So DTSHIMABROWN. You can always message me on there, and I'm happy to put you in touch with the right people, or recommend a lot of other organizations in the city that you can become involved with.
Shima, thank you. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing this passion that you have and giving the world this idea in a much more profound and powerful way. To go back to what Marc said, there was a plethora of great ideas that were shared today. And I do hope that even if just one person watching is like, I need to practice volunteering, I would love that. For anybody watching, you know, this conversation we had with Shima, we love to have these, Marc and I call idea conversations. If you would like to have a conversation with us about something that you have an idea about, reach out to us. Our web address is itsabouttogodownshow.com. You can find us on YouTube, same handle. Or if you know somebody, maybe you know somebody and you're like, oh, this person should give a TED Talk, or this person has a really great idea, reach out. Thank you, Shima, for being on our episode.
So much.
We are so grateful for this conversation. And until our next episode, and for every time, it is about to go down.